All right, well, it's Saturday and it's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're right outside the old subway building on historic Hill Street. So our pervasive June gloom is finally starting to go away, and we're starting to get some wispy clouds and some sunshine. Things are looking good. So this is the first subway in Los Angeles, and it was built in 1925, and it discontinued just 30 years later in 1955. A man named Huell Howser came here, and I just happened to watch the TV show on PBS, and that's basically where my obsession with downtown LA came from.
Howser, and right now I'm standing in the middle of the street here at 4th and Hill in downtown Los Angeles. That's the California Plaza back there, those beautiful big modern glass buildings. But we are not here to do a story about the new buildings. We are here to do a story about this wonderful old building right here, the Subway Terminal building, which has been a fixture here in downtown Los Angeles for over 50, 60, 70 years now. Actually, it's boarded up now, but we're going to be able to get inside. Now, what are we looking at here?
We're on one of the platforms.
This was the platform where people got on and off the trains.
And it's all been filled in where the tracks where the camera is. And this, it's on out the subway terminal. That's the subway right on out there.
This is the tunnel.
That's the tunnel. And the trains came in and out this way, and then this structure in the middle is the train master.
No, is it going to be like the
And the Red Line opened in, I want to say 1992, 93, 91, thereabouts. I probably could have looked that up. But just after the Blue Line, they're kind of built concurrently and opened up within a couple years of each other. But this original section here started at Union Station, which is over in that direction. And originally there was just 4 stops. There was Civic Center, Pershing Square, 7th and Metro, and then Westlake MacArthur Park. So when the Red Line originally opened, it was pretty much just a novelty, because Union Station didn't even have Metrolink at that time. It was just a couple of Amtrak trains. And then it connected to MacArthur Park, which at the time, if you ever see the movie Falling Down, there's a big scene that's in that area. That movie was filmed right after the riots, and it kind of captures the grit of the era.
Hello, sir. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Man, I'm terrible.
Sorry to hear that.
Hey, this is my park. I live here. Who the fuck are you walking through my park carrying 2 bags? You got 2 bags. I don't got any. Is that fair? Huh? What's in those bags anyway? Huh? Give me one of those bags.
But you can see this area has always been served by the Metro ever since opening day. In the last decade or so, this plot of land has been completely unused. When I first moved here, that was actually a park. That's the 500 Days of Summer bench up there. So I'm gonna break in there one of these nights when I don't have my dogs with me. So that's kind of a neat place to trespass. So you get the concept of a heavy rail next to giant state-subsidized financial institutions. In the 1980s, Los Angeles was trying to position itself as the Pacific Rim financial headquarters. People that work in these buildings are not going to ride on that train. And I know that firsthand from working around here. Regular middle class office business environment, and hardly anyone rode the Metro, maybe 2 people in my entire office.
like the acting.
All right, well, as expected, it's lunchtime on the weekend, so it would be very busy in there. Just a tad of anxiety, kind of permissively, but not quite legally walking your dogs through a restaurant establishment like that. But that is something that is kind of done by a lot of people, and it's kind of our thing. So far so good. So right there, off in the distance, there's a tunnel, and to the left of the tunnel is where the old Angel's Flight used to be before it was dismantled and put about a half a block to the south. So maybe about a 4 to 6 minute walk, maybe 5 minutes tops to the regional connector station here, to the A line and the E line, and just finally to the point where I'm able to say them without having to think about it. One thing that's always been noticeable in this direct vicinity here is that there's a lot of parking lots, and this area, I mean, there's some light office building. I find this building to be so interesting because it's kind of a hodgepodge of different buildings that are put together into one complex. Even the office for rent is old-timey. And it's got some weird driveway and ramp thing that goes through it. So I don't know the exact story about this. I know that the Redwood Bar and Grill, one of my favorite local venues and bars. So I've been down here many times at many different times of the day. And this is kind of part of our normal dog walking rotation here. And it's always been a very sleepy place, because up ahead is all government buildings. And 2nd Street here was kind of decimated completely. 2nd Street used to be a really busy streetcar thoroughfare. All right, so after a little pit stop, in my last video about the regional connector, homelessness was brought up just once, because believe it or not, on my last excursion, which was only 3 stops granted, there was virtually no signs of homelessness. And that's the thing about Los Angeles, is that there's areas where there's a huge problem with homelessness, or I think we should break it into different sections of people. There's legitimately homeless people due to mental health issues that are of no fault of their own. And then there are elective mentally ill people that are just constantly on this crazy blend of synthetic drugs. And, you know, I don't really have a whole lot of advocacy for that, except hope they get better. Because I have friends that I was close to in high school that I still see on the Magnolia off-ramp when I go to visit my family. And I know that it's kind of heartbreaking to see the current state of affairs and just not have all the answers, have some of the answers, but that's a bigger story. So I don't like talking about homelessness in broad strokes. I just categorically just shut it down. I like, it's got to be a lot more nuanced. And then of course, I'd like to hear from people that have family members with mental illness and drug addiction and all that stuff. And if you grew up in Southern California, a lot of us that grew up here, we know people that have slipped in and out of homelessness like throughout our lives. Like, I think my family was fairly middle of the road white trash, but lower middle class white trash. But there was like characters growing up that, like, you know, people got into drugs, and that's been a big part of Southern California's legacy, and that's why a lot of people either make it or break it when they come here, because once you get a nasty addiction, it's over. And then the rest is just a death spiral that nobody wants to really address. So one thing I noticed the other day, granted it was a work day, and it was about 5:30 in the afternoon, so theoretically rush hour. And I was kind of tripping out because there's all kinds of people loitering and sitting on benches and stuff like that. And I was just kind of like, whoa, this area has been fenced off, and I walk my dogs through here, and this is never been a place where people visit. Just nobody. This is just a local corner where anyone with dogs. This is empty space. There's been a restaurant across the street and a couple other things that have opened and closed and whatnot. But it's always been a dead zone. And I was kind of tripping out to see people going up the elevator with their bikes and stuff like that. I was like, okay, cool. So this lot is to be developed. It's fully engineered to take on pretty much anything. A 50-story building, whatever. It's supposed to be engineered to be able to handle the load of something like that. So it could be that one mega project is just gonna totally transform the area. So there are definitely a lot of buses around here. Buses have ruled downtown LA for a long time. And many moons ago, before I had a driver's license, we were at the mercy of these little paper maps, and LA's maps were just crazy. So the first time I ever rode mass transit in LA was probably 1990. Actually, it was definitely 1996, because that was the year my grandparents brought me here. So I came here once with them, chaperoned, and I was like, all right, come on guys, it's summer vacation. We're 16, so we started taking the bus out here, and the rest has just kind of been a crazy scientific experiment of mine to see what it was like back then, and just continually see it change and evolve, and now just being completely immersed in it. So this land is generously given to us by the LAPD, because when they designed their headquarters, they designed it with this green space that, as far as I know, has no real official designation. Maybe it does, but there's no gates, there's no hours. I'm telling you, there's no rules. As long as you're not being a pain in the ass, and you do get some homeless people, but the thing about this area is that, unfortunately and fortunately, it's a weird receivership to people that come out of the central jail, which is just on the other side of this building, on the other side of the freeway. So a lot of people come through here and they're released from jail. They don't know what the fuck's going on, and they kind of end up perched up around here. But for the most part, it's, you know, you get your random a-holes, but for the most part, the way that this park governs itself. It's right next to the police department headquarters, but there's never any cops here. I'm telling you, it's a total free-for-all that I absolutely adore. So a little story about this guy right here. So I got her about 6 months before him, and she was immediately cool, and she always knew what to do. She never ran off, was totally smart as a whip. So I adopt this fool right here and bring him to the dog park, and after it looks like he's not freaking out or anything like that, I decide, hey, I'm gonna let him go off leash too, because we're gonna be like that. These are my wild animals. So this dude right here just takes off and bolts and just takes off down Spring Street. And it threw me into such a panic. So I'm telling you, let this be the honor system. I love this park. Let it always be this way. I don't know, if there was fences, I wouldn't be too upset, but I dig the accessibility, and I dig the self-governing ability, and lots of good-natured citizens come here and walk their dogs after work and stuff like that. So it's kind of a fun place. So how has the opening of the Regional Connector Historic Broadway station affected the area surrounding it? Well, not a whole lot yet. But this is part of the long game, because the real win is the ability to traverse from north to south, east to west, to go through seamlessly, and everything else can be improved upon. I mean, the speed, etc. Those trains should be flying through the tunnels, but I can see why, without the experience of operating on that section, you do want to be extra careful. So I appreciate that, and I do hope that they speed up the trains, make them a little bit more metro style, kind of just to make up for lost time for the sections of track to the south of downtown. But this is Spring Street. Looks like they touched up the bike lane here. So this bike lane is funny. So never in my life have I experienced the joy. Now it's joy. It was irritation, and then it went to kind of like lethargy, and now it just kind of makes me laugh at the number of people that park in the bike lane. And I think to myself, the first time I drove in San Francisco, I was absolutely horrified to think that I might be on the same lanes that a streetcar would be on. And I constantly thought that I was going to be given a bunch of expensive tickets and stuff like that. And it's just so funny to think back on those days and fast forward to today, where you could essentially do whatever you want to do in LA. You can behave exactly. There's only a few red zones where you are not going to be tolerated here, but I say that for good and bad. There is, we used to joke in high school about going to Amsterdam and blah, 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 and legal weed and all that stuff. And then here we are. America 2023. We have new metro stations. We have all kinds of social problems. And LA's definitely got its share of them. But not completely. Because this isn't done up. This is the way the area has always been. This has always been a very, very safe area of downtown. So the thing is if nobody's intimately familiar with downtown like that, you kind of don't know the difference. It's you see all kinds of horrible depictions of LA. And I mean, what can I say? I mean, it's not wrong. I mean, some of the videos are made by assholes, but some of them are kind of borderline, and you're kind of an asshole, and everything in between. So I've always strayed away from exploiting that as a content mechanism. But that being said, I absolutely do not hide anything when I walk around. I mean, do you see any tents? I'm gonna walk around for a few minutes, and you know, I'm always walking around here, and yeah, there's lots of places where there's no tents, and there are little pockets where things get completely out of control, and that's up to the city to do something about, which it won't, because you have this blend of I'll tell you a story. One of my most fond eras for me living down here and kind of trying to be socially aware was when we did all sorts of protests to advocate for the additional sales tax that was going to pay for let's just call it housing solutions. But you know, over the years I've been made an ass of, because it's now the money is clearly being utilized in a non-cost-effective manner. There are ways to do things cheaply, but they just absolutely refuse to go that way. They want to go the most expensive and archaic. And it boggles my mind that if you give someone that amount of capital, I mean billions of dollars, billions of taxpayer dollars, if you give an organization that much capital to do something with building housing, and it's like, it'll get done quickly and cheaply. The LA loves to use its own bureaucracy against it. So right now we're in Kevin DeLeon's city council district, and he's a racist POS, and I hate to put it so bluntly, but I mean, listen to him and the way he talks about Hispanics, he's clearly racist. I might cut that out because it's not really relevant, but yeah, we've had some bad leadership, some decent leadership too. But this area is pretty much the same as it has been, same as it will be. It relies on a steady stream of visitors, and it does a really good job. It's a fantastic place to visit, grab lunch and all that stuff. So right here is the $1 Million Theater, and just after that, behind that green sign, is Grand Central Market. So it's not directly adjacent to the regional connector, but it's close enough. It's a brief walk. And that theater occasionally has movies that you can go to. Just show up and watch Taxi Driver. It's a really cool environment to watch a movie, but the chairs will hurt your back. And the funny thing about this building here is those are apartments up there. One of the earliest days that I can remember in downtown LA, the building used to have a sign that faced Bunker Hill, and it says, if you lived here, you'd be home right now. And that kind of is quite literally what inspired me to want to move downtown. So it's crazy. It's like a bad marriage. It's like, for better or worse, I've been here and I've seen a lot of changes. It's sad to lose that house of music right there. And you can see eventually it's going to be, I mean, this looks bad. I mean, this isn't, well, I mean, let me look at it. Well, the graffiti's not horrible, but eventually this will be cleaned up and opened up to be some sort of, you know, there's no end of, when all else fails, open up clubs. So this area definitely has the potential. One of my favorite bars is right over here. This area absolutely has the potential to be kind of like a bar hoppy food area. And as they say, it's not overrun with homelessness, but there are certainly homeless people about. But I'm not editing anything out to make it look pretty. This is literally what it is. Ooh, during the pandemic, this place, I don't want to rat them out, but they were so cool because there was nothing open at night. 9:30 at night on a Saturday night, there was nothing open around here except for that place with their tent and their supply of beer. Thankfully didn't get severed by the pandemic, and that was the only thing that was open, kind of skirting the terrible well, I'll go there. But let's just say my last video got a lot more views than I thought I was going to get. So I've never had a video get that many views. So thanks to whoever supported it. Looking at the old YouTube analytics, I'm seeing people looking at my old videos, and I am very embarrassed retroactively. So if you do happen to go through my videos that were during the pandemic, you really have to understand the stress that it put this guy under, trying to be the ever-present optimist. Nihilistic optimist is what I am. And that period of time really broke my heart. But, you know, wounds heal, and it's a new day, and things are going good in my general vicinity. So while that guy, he just has his cell phone speaker on, a common anomaly here is that a lot of people roll around on bikes and scooters and anything else, and they have these Bluetooth PA systems. And so whether you like it or not, it's like, for me it's clear. It's like when I hear something I like, I enjoy it. And when I hear something I don't like, I'm like, oh God, like turn that off. But that's the thing here. There's always some of the guys, they just call them vibes, because they roll through and they don't really have an objective other than to set vibes. And sometimes when it happens, it's kind of like, whoa, that's so cool. Like, everything's great. This is the infamous Broadway and 5th Street. Why is it infamous? Because I live somewhere very close to this general vicinity, and I don't normally bring out my camera. I'm smarter than that. By the way, in this general area by the last bookstore, you're 100% safe. I promise. I mean, you're 96% safe, and you're not likely to be a victim of any sort of assault or violent crime. But doing what I'm doing right now, like this, will absolutely get you in pretty short order. If I was fucking around in this area with this camera like this, without kind of like seeing that the coast is clear, you're gonna get messed with, because there's people conducting business on the street. So one of my things that factors into my opinion of homelessness is those buildings way off in the back. That's the Hotel Roslyn, and you can't really see it, but the Hotel Alexandria is right here too. And that is a different video for a different day on my opinions of you know, oh, turn it into housing. It's like, okay, wait, hold on a second. It's way more complicated than that, because currently the Alexandria and the Roslyn have issues that one of these days I'll get to the bottom of it. But let's just keep moving. We're gonna keep heading south down Broadway. And I say this every time, but under the bridge, Anthony Kiedis, he's walking down good old Broadway. He's walking down this stretch, coming right up here. And I don't quite have the attention span to match it up or anything like that right now, but rest assured it was in this area, which is where I got my first glimpse of downtown LA, was getting off the bus, the 460 bus from Orange County, and arriving on this glorious and storied avenue. How you doing, dude? So this area looks very similar to what it looked like in the mid-90s. Like, this is uncanny how, just take a snapshot of this and this is what all of Broadway looked like, all the way down to like Olympic, and it was a thriving Hispanic shopping district that later, for the most part, if you go down Pacific Avenue in Huntington Park, you'll see where a lot of the businesses in the area relocated, but there are still some, what I would call legacy businesses. Actually, there's quite a few, because this was directly adjacent to the financial, or not the financial, the jewelry district. They built that headquarters there in, I believe, the late 70s. So this area was really, it still is, it's a very important jewelry broker. What am I trying to say here? It's hot, the sun just came out and it's finally 80 degrees, so I gotta get these guys out of the sun. We'll leave it here in the shade. The Spring Street Arcade. So there's, if you go into Google Street View, you can go back to like 2006, make it so that you can go back to this area and see what this used to be, because now it's that place has struggled for a long time. This used to be a 24/7 convenience store when I first moved here, which was awesome. And then there's wine place, pizza place. What's that place called? Can't remember the name. It's very popular. Here, we'll go in a little bit more. And a couple things. This coffee shop was really cool. The pandemic shut it down immediately. It was sad to see that go. Barbecue place, gelato place, taco place. And as you can see, business is brisk. But this used to be a swap meet. My first time coming here, this was a swap meet. And these were stalls. And the big thing for me was that Dickies were $11.99 here instead of $14.99 at my local indoor swap meet. So I used to get Levi's and Dickies down here. And right here, there used to be kind of a novelty random shop that sold stink bombs and fart spray. So this was a place that we used to come back here all the time, because we used those things as weapons for our pranks back in suburbia. So this place will always has a soft spot, a sweet spot in my heart. All right, so we're gonna go out of the sun and get out of here. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.